An absolutely surreal moment, most likely, for kicker Andre Schmidt. Many people are struggling with what exactly is the Browns' plan and what the desired outcome for the overall season could be. You need to dig deeper to see truly what's going on. And we're kind of throwing it back, I guess, to 2023 as far as the offensive tackle position is concerned for the Browns. We'll get into that a little bit as well. Browns 3D on the OBR streaming network begins now. Welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends, your daily delivery of all things Dog Pound Browns 3D on the OBR streaming network. I am your host, Jeff Lloyd. For all of you who come on out every day, whether it is for the written content at theobr.com, we could all not be more thankful for your patronage here at the OBR. Please look into, of course, the VIP access, the insider forums, the Ask the Insiders. Your subscription gets bundled with a subscription to Paramount Plus. So, two great deals for the price of one certainly is right up everyone's alley. The continued support for the OBR streaming network beginning every night at 6 p.m. I can't even begin to tell you what Mike Keefe has in line after Browns 3D tonight. Two members of the Cleveland Browns media, and then garage beers later with former Major League Baseball general manager Steve Phillips. Good night to be tucked in with the OBR. Get your favorite cocktail or tea or a coffee if that's what you want. But we got you covered basically from neck to nuts here on the OBR streaming network. Make sure you subscribe to the OBR on YouTube and make sure, of course, you subscribe to the OBR over on Twitch. 2 weeks ago, Andre Schmidt probably looking at social media, reading the headlines, hearing the chatter. As much as maybe the fans wanted him out of here, is probably as much as Andre Schmidt wanted to dig a hole and crawl into it himself. It's certainly been a talk for a while now. The kicker position does not get necessarily the appreciation it deserves, but certainly gets all the negatives that it technically does not deserve as well. And, for Schmidt, his first two kicks week one against the Cincinnati Bengals, beginning his NFL career, go well. His next two kicks, not so well. Cleveland Browns lose a 1-point game at home to the Cincinnati Bengals that they probably should have won. Week two goes to Baltimore, makes his kicks, and in true kicker fashion, nobody talks about it. Granted, the Browns, lost by a solid margin to the Baltimore Ravens that day, but Schmidt did get himself back on the schneid. Makes his one field goal attempt, makes his extra point, and then somehow, all of a sudden, with a few seconds left in regulation, here is Andre Schmidt jogging onto the field for a 55-yard game-winning field goal attempt against a team that many believe is an absolute Super Bowl favorite in the Green Bay Packers. Naturally, the Packers ice him. Gives him a few more seconds to think about it and all he's been through, losing his mother in July, his first legit opportunity to basically cut his teeth into the NFL kicker world. And Schmidt nails it dead center with probably 6 to 7 yards to spare. And all of a sudden, a guy that 14 days earlier, everybody wanted to throw into Lake Erie, all of a sudden was the guy who probably hasn't taken a dollar out of his pocket in the 72 hours since. Andre Schmidt was all rewarded today by being named the AFC Special Teams Player of the Week. It's just an amazing thing the way sports can work and the way from GOAT to hero or hero to GOAT can work within professional sports. And for Schmidt, who obviously could have mentally gotten lost into it after week one, knowing, it does not have a big leash. And the Browns brass and the Browns coaching staff sticks up for the young man, champions for the young man, and he has since rewarded them in week 2 and most certainly in week 3. So congratulations, obviously, Andre Szmyt, your week 3 AFC Special Teams Player of the Week for his game-winning 55-yarder. Now, ideally, the Browns' offense right now is not anywhere close to, I think, what anybody is hoping for. And, you know, the fact that they're struggling, we have not eclipsed 17 points yet. And in 3 outings, it was 16, 17, 13. So it's not ideal, of course. But when you get deeper into this and, you kind of wrap your head around the fact that the Browns are breaking in five, five rookie skill players. The 3 running backs, of course, Quinshawn Judkins, Dylan Sampson, Rocket Sanders, wide receiver Isaiah Bond, tight end Harold Fannin Jr. All 3 of those rookie running backs already have a touchdown. That's pretty impressive. Harold Fannin, I think everybody Browns wise, and the more I see from the national media and folks outside of Cleveland looking in, the one thing they all say about Harold Fannin is, man, we want to see more. And as impressive as he's been as a receiver, his route running, and again, I keep going back to it, it was not the most impressive athletic workout numbers from Harold Fannin until you got to that 3 cone number. And then that's what's, showed the type of, cutting ability that he just, possesses, and the start stop. And it's really one of the biggest and most defining things when it comes to measuring what could be someone's route running ability, short area quickness. And for Fannin, that's the one thing he had. And, I think what he's doing as a blocker is probably just as impressive, if not more. It was really difficult to understand what the expectation could be for Fannin as a blocker. He's not necessarily true tight end size. Most of his tape obviously was against the MAC, you know, but you see him and, he is in the backfield for pretty much every short yardage play, goal line or short yardage. Fannin is in there as a 21-year-old rookie and performing admirably. I think he's getting better as the time goes on, which shows that, Harold Fannin is obviously a guy who's, very dedicated to his craft. He is a very motivated in the classroom student, attention to detail. And it's really been, certainly a nice debut for the former Bowling Green tight end and, of course, jack of all trades at McKinley High School. Isaiah Bond, been mostly quiet, I would think, but certainly within understandings. When you factor in that Isaiah Bond, got here once essentially training camp was over, got a couple of, feet wet moments in the final preseason game, of course, against the Los Angeles Rams. One of the first plays of the 2025 season was, just a quick one hitter to Bond that I guess he took for about 5 yards. Reception in Baltimore, a couple of receptions Sunday. But I think Sunday you started to see there's, starting to become maybe a little bit more of a role for Bond. And, he's kind of, feeling his oats, with his, vertical ability, which is something the Browns offense desperately needs, even if Joe Flacco's kind of playing cautious with throwing the ball down the field. But when you factor in the Browns are breaking in 5 rookie skill players between Judkins, Sampson, Sanders, of course, Bond, and of course, Fannin. And these rookies to this point have contributed for 50% of the total yardage for this Browns offense through 3 games. 50% of the yardage through the first 3 games has come from rookie skill players. That's crazy. That's crazy. And yes, as much as the Cleveland Browns would love to contend this year, and, if it happens and all the breaks go their way and all of a sudden, you're knocking on the door late in December with the opportunity to sneak into a wild card, that'd be great. But for the Browns, the fact that that number of 50% of the total yardage to this point is being given to you by rookies kind of tells the tale here. This is a team that I don't want to say is rebuilding. I know a lot of people want to use that term. I believe the Browns think they are retooling on the fly. And it's certainly showing at this point. There's just no question about it. You got 5 guys contributing as skill players on the offensive side of the ball. We haven't even talked about the defensive rookies yet or the kicker. That's just crazy. It is a crazy, crazy statistical output to know that your offense, which is so rookie heavy, has the rookies doing 50% of the heavy lifting to this point. Certainly, the DeJuan Jones news is not great, and you can say certainly whatever you want about DeJuan and where you thought maybe his play was or his play wasn't, but he was kind of a known at the tackle position for the Browns right now. And with Jack Conklin, and this is the thing that's kind of scaring me a little bit about Jack Conklin, is, what you saw of Jack Conklin at practice today. It kind of appears that brace is bigger today than the brace he was wearing last week. So I'm not necessarily sure what that means for Jack Conklin right now. But I'm assuming when we are going with heavier or more bulkier of a brace or whatever that thing was on his arm today they want to call, that's probably doesn't bode very well for the amount of strength that Jack Conklin can generate from his right arm and his right shoulder. Now, and I've talked about this for years now, and you can't just knock on Jack Conklin. We are talking about a guy who has been a 2-time All-Pro. But the thing with a guy like Jack, who has always been more of an athletically built offensive tackle than your just traditional big old hunk of a dude playing the tackle position, is when Jack Conklin gets banged up, Jack Conklin's play severely deteriorates. He just doesn't have the, big old country boy strength to play through injuries, similar to a Joel Bitonio who went out there and manned up for 60 minutes on Sunday and apparently was having a difficult time getting in and out of his vehicle. It's not a knock on Jack. Jack's been a 2-time All-Pro, and when he's on the field, he's been a good player. Has he missed a boatload of time? Absolutely, no question about it. But when he's out there, he's a solid contributor. But for the Browns, you're kind of looking at this offensive tackle position, and if you're getting a sense of deja vu, yeah, you should be. This kind of feels like 2023 all over again. In 2023, week 1, Jack Conklin went down. That was it. Done. Season. That introduced us to the time to rookie DeJuan Jones, who looked like he was performing pretty admirably. Now we get to later in the season. DeJuan Jones done, out for the year. At the time, Jed Wills, and I can't believe we have a Jed Wills reference. Jedrick Wills was, trying to stave off season-ending surgery so maybe he could be a part of the late season run. Unfortunately, his knee just did not respond, of course. So there were the Browns scrambling to field 2 starting offensive tackles when their first 3 were down. That inevitably turned into Jaron Christian being brought in 2023, who was a Bill Callahan disciple at the time. And then finally just plugging James Hudson in on the right side, giving him help in passing situations, but having him probably hold his own a little bit better than maybe anticipated as a run blocker. But now you're trying to figure this all out here one more time. Cornelius Lucas, I'm assuming right now is just your left tackle for the foreseeable future. Pretty much closed out the year playing left tackle last year for the Washington Commanders for Jaden Daniels. So I don't think having Lucas out there is necessarily a bad thing at all. I think with Lucas, you kind of have some of the same issues, but maybe on a smaller level than you did with DeJuan Jones. Just a massive dude. And the bigger you are as an offensive tackle, the more difficult it is to be a plus contributor as a run blocker. You got to get small. You got to be able to cut guys off at their mark. And, you can't just reach out and grab them and yank them to the ground because that's a penalty. You got to beat them with your footwork. You got to beat them with foot speed. You got to beat them with quickness. And when you're talking about guys 6'7, 325, 330, that's just not the easiest thing to do. So now Jones is officially on IR. So now here is where the position the Browns are at. So Jones goes on IR. And Ohio State fans, I'm sure you got a little bit of a smile because I know you guys love when your Buckeyes settle a little bit north of Columbus, of course, in the 2-1-6 with Cleveland. But the Browns sniped today off the New England Patriots practice squad. Thad Mumford. I'm sorry. Yes, Thay Munford, 2022 7th-round pick out of Ohio State of the Las Vegas Raiders, has over 18 career starts in his NFL career, has played in over 40 NFL games, so some spot action within the offensive line or contributing on, extra point or field goal. Now, for Munford, he has been a guy at times, has been a plus run blocker. So he's kind of the opposite to Cornelius Lucas, to DeJuan Jones. He has certainly done a really good job, Munford, in getting his way down. At times at Ohio State, he was knocking on the door of, 345, 350. Granted, 6'6", and change, right around that 6'6" mark. So it wasn't such an oddity that he was carrying a weight around that amount. It's certainly not really the best. It's certainly not the most functional amount. Kind of rocks in these days anywhere between 315 to 325. And with a PFF grade of over 80 as a run blocker, it shows you that, playing it around that number at weight has certainly helped him find a way to get to the second level as a run blocker. What we saw of Jack Conklin today at practice does not, to me, resonate in any way whatsoever that I'm thinking that Jack Conklin is a guy that's probably starting for the Cleveland Browns on Sunday. My guess is Jack Conklin would be out one more time. So that means with Munford already on the active roster, because that was the move. Tawan went to IR and Munford right to the roster. So now that gets you to most likely having to bring up an offensive tackle for Sunday against the Detroit Lions. And then that's where you kind of get to, you have the Joshua Miles or you have Tyree Phillips. Tyree Phillips is kind of in a similar spot, in my opinion, to Munford. Phillips was generally drafted higher. He was drafted in the 3rd round, of course, by the Baltimore Ravens, has started more NFL games. And just like Munford, his last significant action came in 2023. And another big, bulking offensive tackle, of course. So most likely Phillips would come up. I don't know necessarily how it would work. Again, I kind of think the way it's going to work is going to be at left tackle would be, of course, Cornelius Lucas, and then you basically have Levinson, Munford, and then Phillips, who predominantly would be right tackles. Levinson would be the one who, at least this summer, played a boatload of left tackle for the Los Angeles Rams. Now, so you're just trying to piecemeal this if you're Cleveland. And for me, the most important thing for the Cleveland Browns to be competitive, to have a chance to win in these games, is going to most likely be putting out the offensive line, the best offensive line in terms of what you think you can get as far as running the football. It's just going to make things easier for the offense. It's obviously going to keep the opposing offense off the field. It's obviously going to keep the Browns defense rested. So that is probably going to be the construction of what the offensive line is, I would say, for the time being, although we know Dewan is not coming back, of course. So Lucas right now is, left tackle one. And unless anything happens, that is it. He will be the starting left tackle. Ideally, Jack Conklin gets to a position where he can get back on the field. But until that albatross of a brace on his right arm disappears, I don't think anybody sees that coming. And, we don't know what the state is, of course, for Jack Conklin in that injury. Also, you label it. You don't have to tell anybody necessarily what the injury is, of course. So building the offensive line and hopefully having the best five as far as running the ball. That's what made the difference eventually on Sunday. The Browns kept committing to it. They kept going at it. They kept. Then all of a sudden in the fourth quarter, you got Judkins breaking 11-yard run. Then follow that up with a 38-yard run. And now all of a sudden the offense was kind of in business and was able to start getting some points on the board. You get a field goal. Of course, you get the dump and an interception, as we all know the way the rest of that game worked out, of course. So running the ball for the Cleveland Browns is their best chance. And, whether you got to use them all, Judkins, Sampson, Ford, who knows, Rocket Sanders at some point. If the Browns haven't tried to move Rocket Sanders, and I said this right after week one, I think the Browns kind of like him because he wouldn't have been here for as short amount of time as he was. And then the Browns put all of that on his plate. Plus, I think the Browns really kind of like the idea of, having next year's backfield probably already on the roster. Just huge, huge certainty that you can see and say Quinshawn Judkins, Dylan Sampson, and Raheem Rocket Sanders are the Browns' 3 running backs for 2026. So if that's one less thing the Browns have to worry about for the entirety of the offseason, trade period, free agency, the draft, when they're rebuilding an offensive line, certainly looking at cornerback players, and going to have to pour through copious amounts of collegiate quarterback tape. I didn't want to, but we will. Why not? And had something come up yesterday and still trying to work what is the best version that you guys want for a Tuesday show. I'm thinking about maybe just turning it into some draft chatter. I really am. But Saturday night, I cleared everything. I cleared everything Saturday night to sit down and watch Indiana and Illinois. Really cleared everything to watch Fernando Mendoza. Watched over the summer and what he had done in 2024. And haven't really watched a lot of quarterback tape, really. There wasn't anybody for the Browns to invest their number one pick in the way it all worked. So, of course, we watched it, but it wasn't like when 2018. And Pete Smith and I, we were joking because, we were trying to find ways to get each other, tapes of guys that, he hadn't seen, that I had seen, or I hadn't seen, that he had seen. And, watched basically every single Oklahoma game of Baker Mayfield, every single USC game of Sam Darnold, Lamar, Josh Allen. Yeah, I took the L. No problem. Took the L. Never thought Josh Allen would hit the level he did. God bless him. Absolutely God bless him. That's an American dream right there. But I am going to tell you right now, you've heard me talk about Lenora Sellers, and I think Lenora Sellers to me, and I might age myself here a bit, Lenore Sellers kind of reminds me a little bit of Devontae Culpepper back in the day when he was in college. Culpepper had all the ability, essentially had no idea what in the hell he was doing yet, and got to Minnesota and was dealing with a Chris Carter and a Randy Moss, and he had no choice but to just get in line and get in line quickly. And all of a sudden, the light kind of went on for Culpepper. For Sellers, the light is starting to go on a little bit. It really is. You know, kind of knowing how to use his mobility to pair with his throwing ability. There's a couple of nice balls against Mizzou. And with South Carolina, they're not going to win the SEC. So I think that's one less pressure for Sellers where he can just go out each week. And it's not about, trying to stake my draft claim. And it's not, having to worry about, oh my God, can I get this team, to the SEC championship game, which is most likely not going to happen. It's just going out and being able to play. And it's really seeming like that's suiting Lenora Sellers very well. But back to Fernando Mendoza. I am going to call him Doc because he is just surgical. His RPO ability is crazy impressive. He processes at the line of scrimmage amazingly fast. Granted, Illinois got blitzkrieged and had no idea and did not see it coming. But even if they did, there was no stopping Fernando Mendoza. Ball gets in his hands. The ball is catchable. He knows exactly where to put the ball on his receiver. If it needs to be high and away, it's high and away. If it needs to be low and away, it's low and away. If it needs to be on the numbers, it's on the numbers. If he needs to drill you in the face mask because he thinks that's where you need to have your hands to catch the ball from him, that's the best window of opportunity. That is what Fernando Mendoza does. You need to be bookmarking Indiana games this year if you are a Cleveland Browns fan. Because if you remember, we did some talks and I talked about it with Pete and he brought it up on the show a couple of times. Do we know exactly what the ideal Kevin Stefanski quarterback is? Does Kevin Stefanski know? And could he define, without giving you a player, could he define what is his ideal quarterback? For me, and what I believe from having watched this man's teams for 5+ years now, ultimate intelligence, pinpoint accuracy, and as fast as processing speed as there possibly is. Ball is snapped. It's in the air. It's in my hands. Where's the ball going? By the time I hit that foot, that ball better be gone. And I think Mendoza, for Kevin Stefanski, would be the guy that would probably fit in to that written definition. And there would be the picture. And the picture would be Fernando Mendoza. It's not a knock on Sellers. And I think that one of the reasons I like Sellers is, I'm starting to really, really value quarterback mobility in the NFL. If your quarterback has plus mobility, it is such a difference maker for your team. That Jordan Love sack that he took against Carson Schlesinger, Josh Allen ain't taking that sack. Lamar Jackson ain't taking that sack. Mahomes most likely ain't taking that sack. They're looking at Schlesinger going, you're a rookie running back. You're a rookie linebacker. I am giving you my best move. Let's see if you're good enough to take me down. I'm not just going to stand there and let Schlesinger light me up. It's not going to happen against a plus athlete. But you want some thoughts where the Browns might be standing right now as far as a quarterback in the 2026 class? Lenora Sellers has all the tools in the world, but Fernando Mendoza might be the guy that would be the perfect fit for head coach Kevin Stefanski. As always, we appreciate all of you for support for the OBR, whether it's the written content over the OBR.com. Our team just keeps pushing out and crushing content every day. Check into the VIP access, the insider forums, the Ask the Insiders. Your subscription gets bundled with Paramount Plus. All the support here for the OBR streaming network beginning nightly at 6 o'clock with Browns 3D.